Pickle?
Yes.
Hit the air right sign. It's time for Monday Morning Fallout.
That was right this time.
Monday Morning Fallout. Of course, when we overreact to the football weekend, and what a weekend it was to overreact to. Let's start with my 3 big thoughts. Thought number 1, out of the blue. So, last week was honestly, on paper, going into the week in the high school football ranks, not a great week of games. It was a lighter slate of games, of like legit awesome games. Part of that is due to COVID-19. Part of it is just how the schedule fell. That like we had a lot of games that we thought we were like, okay, well, there weren't those. You didn't have all those big high profile games. I think part of it is that a lot of the 6A and 5A teams are now into district play.
Yes.
So as a result, those big non-district matchups are just fewer and farther between.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like every year we have one of those weeks. We have a week where it's like, slate's okay. Not amazing. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
we had good Thursday games, but that was about it.
But this week came through in ways that we didn't think it would. I thought that Decatur's win over Springtown, was really impressive. Decatur, I think there's an argument that they are now the favorite out of Region 1 and 4A Division 1. That's a great win for Springtown, or for Decatur, rather. Great win as they jump out to a big lead. Springtown comes back on. They score late and hold off a late Porcupine rally to basically win the district title. Lampasas and LBJ probably lived up to the hype, I would say. And I think that was one of those games where it just solidified what we already thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think LBJ can hang with anybody. Yep. I think they can hang and be a problem for anybody. I also think that Lampasas is anybody. I think Lampasas is at worst a top 3 team in 4A Division 1. At absolute worst. And I think they proved that on a night when really they had to rely on guys who weren't named Ace White had to come through with a big win.
Mm-hmm. What about Corpus Christi Miller?
I thought Corpus Christi Miller and Port Lavaca Calhoun, a wild
just
affair.
A crazy game.
Crazy game. Calhoun pulls it out in the final moments. Sterling, the game of the weekend was Sterling City and Westbrook, and Sterling City comes through, kind of beats Westbrook at their own game, like a low-scoring slugfest. Got a fantastic game from their running game. Katie Tompkins' impressive win over Katie Taylor. I thought that, and then you had a couple of stunners, right? You had Midlothian Heritage beating Waco La Vega in a game that was on our radar, but it kind of lost a little bit of luster because Midlothian Heritage kind of bobbing along. They go and stun Waco La Vega and turn things upside down for Division 1. I thought that Abilene's win over Odessa Permian really turns the Little Southwest Conference 2-6A upside down. Permian coming off that big win over Midland Lee. Now they go and they lose to previously winless Abilene. Kind of a surprise. And so, really, in a lot of ways, what you saw was, and then, by the way, you had Winsboro upsetting Mount Vernon.
Yeah,
and
that was huge.
Really, we didn't necessarily expect an amazing week of high school football because on paper, and yet it delivered, which I think is kind of neat.
That's pretty neat.
Pretty neat. All right. Thought number 2, Pobody's nerfect. This is a Simpsons reference.
I got a good kick out of this one.
It's a Marge Simpson reference. Okay. So here's the thing, guys. We are now fresh out of undefeated teams in the state of Texas in college football. We're fresh out. Everyone's got a loss.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. Every single one of them. As SMU got really just hammered by Cincinnati. Especially like that game was super tight early, and then Cincinnati hit the gas. And part of it is SMU turned the ball over. The offense kind of came off the tracks. I think they missed Reggie Roberson in a big way. I don't think the weather helped. I'm not making excuses for SMU. But now we're fresh out of undefeated teams. And so we are still waiting on an undefeated team. The last undefeated team was Houston, right?
Yep.
That Houston team that went to the Sugar Bowl and beat Florida State. That's the last undefeated team we had in the state of Texas. I'm sorry, FBS. FBS team. Of course, Mary Hardin Baylor's won national titles and stuff like that. But point is, we're now, like a couple of weeks ago, we kind of said goodbye to the college football playoff for the state of Texas. Maybe if like A&M wins out, they could sneak in, but they'd need a lot of chaos around them to get in. But at the very least, we will not have an undefeated team in the state of Texas in 2020. And finally, forget Friday. So one thing to keep an eye on this week and next week and pretty much every week for the rest of the year, for the rest of the season at least, in Texas high school football, is we are going to have a lot of midweek football.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
What is it, 29
There are
this week?
29 games that are supposed to be played Monday through Wednesday this week. Yeah. Tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday. 29 games. And by the way, that number is probably only going to increase. Now, part of it is that we are still going to be moving things to whenever we get to the playoffs, there will be fewer Monday games because there will be fewer teams.
Right.
But there will be 29 Monday through Wednesday games this week. There will almost certainly be more of them next week. And so keep an eye on that. That's something to keep an eye on for Texas high school football, is that we are going to have a lot of weirdo, weirdo games that are kind of in the middle of the week because of the 5-day rule.
Can we plug real fast? If you haven't been to our YouTube page,
yes.
The Matt Stepp mega road trip is out. He's back from Canada.
We'll play it on the show tomorrow,
yeah.
But yes, you
check that out.
You can check that on our YouTube page. So those are 3 big thoughts. 3 helmet stickers. A helmet sticker for Cleburne athlete Cleo Chandler. Cleo Chandler carried the ball 12 times for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. He also caught 3 passes for 102 yards and a pair of receiving touchdowns. Cleo Chandler from Cleburne gets a helmet sticker. A helmet sticker to Texas Tech linebacker Rico Jeffers. He was everywhere for Texas Tech in their big win over West Virginia. They needed somebody to step up in a big way and be a playmaker defensively. Rico Jeffers was that guy on Saturday. Really impressive. Rico Jeffers from Texas Tech gets a helmet sticker. And a helmet sticker to Laredo Nixon running back Ricky Navarro. Laredo's back and playing football again, and they Laredo Nixon got a huge game from Ricky Navarro. He ran for 219 yards and 5 touchdowns on the ground in Nixon's big win. So the Laredo Nixon running back Ricky Navarro gets a helmet sticker. 3 teams to worry about. Let's worry about Hewitt Midway.
Yeah.
They're in trouble, like with a capital trouble. T. If you didn't know,
with the zones,
they're in that South Dallas district with Cedar Hill, with Duncanville and DeSoto. And they decided to split it into zones, to 2 4-team zones. So they are in the zone with Waco High, with Mansfield, and with Duncanville. Okay? Well, they just lost this week to Mansfield.
Yep.
As a result, they are now 0-4, I believe, on the year. At least 0-3. I think they're 0-4. And now they are faced with the prospect of, obviously, they got to beat Waco High.
Right.
That's non-negotiable.
Because then Duncanville.
And then you got Duncanville, and at that point, you're just kind of fighting for scraps and hoping that there's chaos in order to get in the playoffs. Hewitt Midway, because of the zone structure, is now in legit peril of missing the playoffs. Let's worry about Baylor for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, the offense is broken. Like the offense can't get going, and it's really frustrating to watch. It is a frustrating offense to watch, and I'm not even a fan. It's frustrating to watch them play.
Yes, it is.
Furthermore, there were reports on Sunday night that Treston Ebner and John Lovett were going to opt out of the rest of the season. That would obviously be a huge blow to Baylor, especially John Lovett is considered like a team leader for that team. Now, those have kind of been dispelled, but you do wonder if there is some dissension, if there is some smellness coming from Baylor. So keep an eye on them. They've got to find a way to get back on track. And finally, let's worry about Tyler. Tyler High loses again this week, and we're starting to wonder, what exactly is this team? We love Coach Workle and Holmes and what they've been able to do, but they just have not been able to put it together yet this year. They have now dropped to 0-4 in the year, going into their bye week. But they lose to McKinney North 34-24 in a game that honestly they probably should have won.
Right. Yeah, you got to finish that.
You got to finish that. So that's pretty disappointing. And so Tyler is 0-4. They're a team to worry about. 3 teams to watch. How about Winsboro? We mentioned them. Yep. Winsboro, Josh Finney takes it to his old team, beats previously unbeaten and state-ranked Mount Vernon, 31-29, I believe was the final, or 30-28, something like that. and they come through and get a huge win, turning that whole district upside down. We'll talk about that district a lot this week. That district is nuts and sets up a very strange game now between Pottsboro and Mount Vernon that has huge playoff implications. So keep an eye on Winsboro, though. Great win for them. Houston, special teams came through in a big way, and they were able to really pummel Navy late. And I will tell you, Houston's like the worst first quarter team in the nation. They're awful in the first quarter. Awful. But then, like, they wake up and it's like, you guys
there they are.
Pretty good. The question is, can they just keep themselves from being buried in the first quarter? But Houston, keep an eye on the
I was shocked by that result.
Big win.
Like, when I texted or I sent it in the Slack chat, I was like, holy cow.
Big win over Navy. And finally, Killeen Shoemaker.
Yeah.
Toby Foreman is doing work down there for the Grey Wolves. They are undefeated after their big win, and suddenly they've got a big game this week against Copper's Cove. They should be favored in that one, but they're off to a 4-0 start after beating Killeen handily. Keep an eye on the Grey Wolves, man. Like we've been talking for a couple of years about how we think the Killeen area is on the come up, and I think that what Shoemaker's doing is awfully impressive. So keep an eye on Killeen Shoemaker. That's a team to watch, and that is Monday Morning Fallout.